Hey everyone, think about a massive construction site for a second. What's the most valuable asset out there? You're probably picturing towering cranes, tons of steel, maybe the massive crew, right? Well, what if I told you the absolute most valuable thing on that site is completely invisible? Today we're taking some fantastic source material, essentially transforming a static presentation right into this dynamic explainer to uncover a massive hidden asset that goes unnoticed literally every single day.
We are demystifying float and construction schedules. So let's dive into this explainer and completely flip how we look at project timelines. We're going to stop seeing them as just, boring static grids of dates and start enthusiastically viewing them as dynamic battlegrounds of risk and reward.
To make this complex subject crystal clear, here's exactly what we're going to cover. First, the misconception of float. Second, the anatomy of flexibility. Third, the great ownership debate. Fourth, what happens when disruption strikes. And finally, the foundation of entitlement. Let's jump right in.
All right, Section 1, the misconception of float. Is it just idle time or is it a buffer? Let's tackle the biggest myth in construction management right out of the gate.
For decades, there's been this really dangerous misunderstanding on job sites all over the world. We literally need to erase the idea that float means idle time. Free time where crews are just standing around waiting for something to happen. Toss that idea out. Instead, we have to replace it with the concept of a highly calculated strategic buffer.
See how we're crossing out that myth of wasted time here? Float is never wasted time. Actually, scratch that. It is a deliberate, protective shield built into the project by really savvy planners. It's definitely not a scheduling mistake. It is the exact strategic buffer that keeps a multi-million-dollar project from completely derailing.
Okay, so now that we know what it isn't, let's move to Section 2, the anatomy of flexibility. Let's pop the hood and see exactly how this buffer actually works.
The crucial point here is understanding this precise mechanical definition before we even start talking about the financial consequences. Basically, float is just the amount of time an activity can be delayed without pushing back the project's final completion date. Quite simply, if an activity has float, it has flexibility. It's your ultimate breathing room.
Now, if you look at the top path, you'll see a solid block. That represents zero float. That's your critical path. Any delay there, boom, your whole project is instantly delayed. But look right below that at the second path. Think of that float allowance as a physical shock absorber, kind of like a giant spring, protecting the vehicle of your project from the bumpy road of inevitable delays.
There are 4 core reasons why this shock absorber is a contractor's absolute best friend. It gives teams the breathing room to do 4 things: manage project risks, recover from minor delays before they snowball into absolute disasters, optimize resources by shifting labor and equipment around efficiently, and ultimately, it just improves productivity across the whole board.
Notice how those 4 exact benefits actually power the central engine of project flexibility. It's like a continuous loop. Without float, even a tiny disruption fractures this engine and creates massive scheduling headaches. But with it, you've got a resilient, perfectly humming system. And that brings us to Section 3, the great ownership debate. Who actually owns the float? Let me tell you, this is the most fiercely contested battleground in the entire construction industry. This is the million-dollar question, the one that sparks endless heated boardroom arguments. If float is such an incredibly valuable, risk-reducing asset, who actually has the legal right to use it? Does it belong to the client who's footing the bill for the build? Or the contractor who meticulously planned the whole thing out? Here's the ultimate clash. On one side, view 1, clients and a lot of contractors view it as project float, essentially a shared public park that anyone can just stroll through. But then you have view 2, contractors. They fiercely guard their float like a dragon guarding gold in a bank vault. They argue, hey, we created that float through our own efficient planning and resource management. And when clients consume it, well, the contractor is left holding all the risk.
But you know what? Theory completely goes out the window when a real-world delay hits. So let's look at exactly what happens to our baseline in Section 4 when disruption strikes.
It starts out perfectly calm and structured, ideally just like this. A smart contractor develops a highly efficient schedule and builds in a really healthy 20-day cushion of flexibility. This baseline is their safety net. It's what ensures smooth sailing so they can actually hit that completion date. But suddenly, out of nowhere, the unexpected happens. Bam! A 15-day client delay, let's say they held up a really crucial design approval, slams right into the timeline. Look at what happens to that cushion.
it rapidly evaporates, leaving a measly 5 days remaining. This injects immediate panic and a drastically increased risk profile directly into the contractor's lap.
Notice the total disconnect here between the two sides. The consultant looks at the schedule, smugly checks off that there was no critical path impact, and just straight up denies an extension of time. But the contractor, they are in sheer panic mode. They just lost 15 days of their hard-earned scheduling flexibility. Their safety net is totally gone, and their risk profile has absolutely skyrocketed.
Let's bring this all together and see how this evaporating flexibility actually turns into a formal dispute in Section 5. The foundation of entitlement. This is where we talk about building an EOT claim.
This simple equation right here is the absolute bedrock of delay analysis. Float consumption plus a critical path impact equals the foundation for a formal extension of time claim. This proves once and for all that float is so much more than just extra time. Understanding exactly how it's created and how it gets violently consumed is the mandatory first step before anybody can even start discussing contractor entitlement.
As we wrap up this explainer, you can really see how understanding the true nature of float perfectly sets the stage for what comes next. In our upcoming deep dive, we're going to put a magnifying glass on that thrilling, critical exact moment, T-minus 0 days, where flexibility officially runs out and the critical path is breached. We'll be diving into the strict mechanics of those EOT claims.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. We all know the old saying that time is money. But if that time is actually a highly engineered, invisible shock absorber that's literally protecting your profit margin, can you really afford to leave your projects float unprotected? Think about your current projects, picture that glowing bank vault of time, and ask yourself right now, who is really holding the keys to your vault?